Are there any modifications to the agenda? I have one, if there's none. Councillor Moncal Swain is going to be a little late tonight, and his item is, his notice of motion is coming up at 8:08. So I'm proposing we move it down to after we complete 9D, before we start item 10, Councillor Quarry's reports, just to give him a little time to get here. Are there any further modifications to the agenda? Can I get a motion to accept the agenda as modified? Councillor Danluck.
So move, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor? Carries unanimously. First up, next item on is our open forum. We have one presenter tonight, Ms. Louise. Oh, consent agenda. Never mind. Hang on. Going back. We're off to a good start for the first council meeting of the year. So I move that council will consent to approve the following agenda items tonight without debate. There are 3 items: 5A, 5B, and 5C. Special committee of the whole minutes from December 11th, 2018. Regular council meeting minutes from December 11th, 2018, and the committee of the whole that we held on December 18th. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to exempt 5B.
So, okay, we'll exempt 5B, so amend the motion to read 5A and 5C. Further discussion? All in favor? That carries unanimously. I'm so excited to have a presenter. Now we have a presenter. Ms. Louise White Gibbs. Come on down. Nope, I'll turn them on. You want to push buttons?
Sure. Okay, Mayor and Council, it's great that you have this opportunity to present. I'm here as a resident, but also as a business owner of the finest location downtown Beaumont, Jeff's Cafe. That's a free plug for me.
Excellent cafe.
Thank you. Anyhow, I was coming here tonight because I was hoping to have an immediate solution, immediate positive solution that would be free. So I know council likes to hear that news about the parking problems we have in Centreville. I know we've had a lot of parking studies, and there's another parking study coming forward. I don't want to wait anymore for that. So I sent a picture today that I took from the lecture of my heated car. So basically it looks like an empty parking lot. Well, that's what it is. And that's the overflow parking lot of the CCBCC Community Hall. That's never used ever, but it had to be built to accommodate in case the facility was used in its entirety. So the prior council actually took a walk out to that parking lot last 3 years ago to specifically talk to the administration how that overflow parking lot should or could be utilized. It was the vision that that parking lot could be used for a whole bunch of things, like put grass over top of paving stones so that we could actually use it for a nice park area, and then yet still cars could park on top of it. But at that point, they said they didn't want to do that. Administration suggested we don't do it because there had to be pipes put under the ground, so they didn't want to rip something up. So I believe it's just gravel now that's on that overflow parking lot. And it is maintained quite well. They plow it all the time, even though no one parks there, so that's wonderful. So all I'm asking council to consider, and to actually hopefully someone can make a motion even tonight, to remove the barriers, the cement barriers, as you can see there. So that we can allow all the staff who work in the Centreville area to park in that lot. So we're talking just daytime use, basically, just for all the staff to park there. So that will alleviate the strain of the parking on 50th Street and in our parking lots. That doesn't cost anything, and we have done that before. I can't remember what function it was. They did remove some of the cement barriers so that there would be access for some event. So I'm just asking to make that permanent and do it immediately, because right now, because of the cold weather, customers aren't stopping. If they see the parking lots are full, they will not walk in -20 weather. But we're willing, the business owners, I've talked to my neighbors and such, is to ask our staff if they would mind, just walking half a block to come to work. So, simple solution. I'm hoping you consider that and move it forward.
Fair enough. CEO, comments?
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of work and a lot of effort put into solving that issue, and we're still looking at it through the Central Area Redevelopment Plan. Certainly, let's have a look at that as a possible option. It shouldn't take us much work to do that. I'm not entirely certain why it hasn't been done in the past, but
Do we need a motion or can we leave it in your hands?
we can leave it in my hands if you like.
Thank you.
Look at it tomorrow.
So that means it'll be done right now?
Taken care of.
Yes! Thank you.
There you go. I like it when they're that easy. I like it when they're that easy. Bring some more like that. Thanks for coming in, Louise. Appreciate it.
And I can't stay, I have to go for the second part of this meeting, which is in Boston. So.
Okay, so item 5B, regular council meeting minutes of December 11, 2018. I will go back to Councillor Barnhart to get a motion to approve this one because I'm pretty sure you're going to amend it.
Thank you. So just to speak to
Yep, go ahead.
the mics are out really loud today, so I don't have to get very close. So it echoes when I do. Thank you, Your Worship. The reason that I exempted this from the approval was that when I did read through the minutes, and I do recall what I had brought forward in my councillor's statement, and I don't believe it was exempted, but maybe it was. But for sure, the issue around the children that sent the letter from the school, from the Colorado Juno, I had exempted that one so that we could have a follow-up with that, and the administration would respond in the, very thankfully to the students for their suggestions. So I'm not sure what the tape sounded like, but what's written here is not my recollection of events. So if there's other councillors who would think differently, then maybe I'm wrong, but that was my recollection of the of what transpired. So I would like that to be corrected in the minutes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Can I make the motion to approve the minutes as amended? So, thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes as amended? Sorry, discussion on the motion? No. All right, all in favor of approving the minutes as amended? Hang on. 5B. Okay. Councillor Stout? Thank you. That carries unanimously. Our next item on the agenda, we have no public hearings, there are no registered presentations, so that brings us to bylaws. Item 9A, bylaw 939-19, grant funding advisory committee. Apparently Mr. Harris this week.
Thank you, Your Worship. You have to be careful. At this time, administration is recommending the adoption of, yes, it's the beginning of the year. Administration is recommending first reading to bylaw 939-19 grant funding advisory committee bylaw. At its November 27th regular council meeting, council approved policy C15-1 community grant program in conjunction with the 2019 budget process. There is one little typo that administrative that will be done to that in section 2.1. Other than that, we recommend first reading for bylaw 939-19.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harris. Is there a member of council willing to move first reading tonight? Councillor Danlock.
So moved, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Discussion on the motion? Anybody? Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Section 3.2, when it says grant funding advisory committee shall appear as a delegation before council. Just a quick note on that. I don't want to get too deep into things, but I just wanted to know, does the chair of the board come forward, or is it the whole delegation that comes forward? It reads like appear as a delegation before council to address the recommendation.
The chair would be presenting, but what we're trying to recommend is that the members be present.
Okay.
So that they get, I guess, feel the buy-in of going through the process. They don't have to come, kind of a deal. But it would be a chair and a staff member presenting it.
Okay, it wouldn't be a group of people sitting here, it would be one
No.
person with
Yes.
others. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the answer.
Councilor Martin?
Thank you, Your Worship, and to the administration. In the actual bylaw, the definitions, the one definition that threw me a bit was chair. It says that the chair is the chair of the promotions committee.
And that was the amendment that I had recommended when I indicated that 2.1, there was a typo in it. The promotions wouldn't be in there.
I was looking for it and I wasn't listening, so appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilor Daniluk?
Thank you, Worship. Mr. Harris, just a quick question. It says in 4.1 that the committee will consist of 5 members from citizens at large. What will be the process to have those positions filled? I believe there's going to be advertising in the paper, a promotional not a campaign, but some promotion to people can apply to be on this committee.
Yes, there is a current policy in regards to advertising for positions on committees, and that policy will be followed for the selection of these board members.
Good, thank you.
Thank you very much. A related question, but not really on the bylaw. Because I know with the new grants policy, we're looking at a first intake, I think it was April. So are we?
Yes, through your worship to the rest of the council and the public. Yes, we're in the process of setting up the advertising to go out on the Friday following is it January 21st? What's today? 8th, so 5th of January, 22nd. So on January 25th, there will be an advertisement, and then in February 1st, there will be an advertising to get committee members. And then, so the intent is to have a quick turnaround in regards to that, so that the intakes will still be taking applications. We're in the process of updating the website with the application forms and everything, so we hope to have that done by the end of the week. So not to slow the process down.
Appreciate that. All right, any further discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none. All in favor of first reading? Carries unanimously. Which brings us to item 9B, bylaw 934-19, Dance Row Meadows Phase 10, first reading. Looks like Mr. Wong is going to join us tonight.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and the members of Council. The department received an application to redistrict a portion of the northeast quarter section of 34, Township 50, Range 24, west of the 4th Meridian in the Dance Row Meadows from AG, Agricultural Reserve District, to Direct Control District 120, Dance Row Meadows Small Lot District, and Direct Control District 121, Dance Row Meadows Medium Density District. The subject area is currently undeveloped and is located north of 60th Avenue and east of Range Road 243, as seen in attachment 2 of the package. The application is to allow for a greater variety in housing products than would be permitted in the current land use bylaw. The purpose of Direct Control 120 is to provide for smaller dwellings in low-density suburban setting with smaller side yard and shallow lot depth. DC 120 proposes a minimum of 32 meters lot depth for an irregular shaped lot, which is 1.5 meters shallower than the lot depth in a conventional district. A reduced minimum side yard setback of 1.2 meter is also being proposed, which is only 0.3 meters narrower than the normal 1.5 meters in the current land use bylaw. The purpose of the other DC 121 is to provide for multi-attached dwelling units in a medium density suburban setting with smaller side yards, which is a 1.2 meters setback. While the new land use bylaw will not be adopted in early 2019 later on, and therefore a direct control district is to ensure that the applicant have the approvals in place to enable developments to occur while the administration completes the new land use bylaw. It is the intention that these DCs to be captured in the new conventional land use district in the new land use bylaw. The proposed direct control districts are consistent with the objective and policies of all higher order plans, including the municipal development plan and the Dense Rural Meadows outline plan. The proposed district provides for housing types that reflects the trends in the region and to accommodate a range of incomes and demographics. The application was circulated to affected external boards and agencies, affected internal civic departments, as well as adjacent landowners for comments. No outstanding concerns regarding this application was received. Based on this, the administration recommends support to this application and give first reading to the bylaw 934-19. Once a public hearing date has been set, a public notice of public hearing will be sent and an advertisement will be posted as required by the Municipal Government Act. Thank you.
Is there a member of council willing to move first reading tonight? Okay, I'll move first reading tonight. Councillor Stout.
So moved, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Stout. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship to Mr. Wong. Before I agree to approve 2 new direct control districts, can you offer me any reassurance that this will be conforming, the new districts will be completely conforming once we get the new land use bylaw passed?
Yes, there is in the proposed land use bylaw and the new IN district, it is conforming to the current proposed district in the proposed land use bylaw. But of course, the ultimate decisions will be up for council for approval of the new land use bylaw. But currently, it is in the proposed land use bylaw language is there. So.
Thank you. That was the reassurance I was hoping you would give me. Can I ask a supplementary?
Sure, go ahead.
There's a section, and I'm struggling to find it now. All right. Bear with me, please, whilst I search the document for what there we go. Down to page 30 of 166 in my agenda package. There's a clause A. In no case shall the front property line be less than 6 meters unless, in the opinion of the development officer, a lesser frontage is desirable to accommodate an aesthetically pleasing and practical design in a cul-de-sac. Now, my understanding was that the land use bylaw and the municipal development plan that we're going to be looking at later this evening, both, what's the term used? Discourage the use of minimize the creation of cul-de-sacs.
Yeah.
So, that being the case, and these direct control districts conforming to the land use bylaw, do we need to have? Why do we need to give discretion to the permitting officer?
Usually, this is on a
cul-de-sacs.
For the cul-de-sac, and usually in a cul-de-sac there is the odd shape, like pipe-shaped lot, and the measurement of the lot depth and the front yard is different from. And in the case that they cannot offer the 6 meters, then that is why they give the development officer the variance power to reduce that a little bit. So that is because of the measurement of the pipe shape, because of the placing of the building envelope there. So that is in an exception case. If they need to do it, there is that section of the land use bylaw to allow the development officer to exercise that variance power. So, and if it is a regular shape, they don't need that.
Understand what you're describing. That in this case, that's to allow, but the land use bylaw minimizes the use of cul-de-sacs. So, do we still need to have this? I guess really the question is: are we planning to build cul-de-sacs in the new direct control district?
It just in a case that there is a need for a cul-de-sac because of the design, the road design, that there needs to be a cul-de-sac, and there is a need to reduce the front yard, and this is otherwise the development officers don't have the power to relax it. They have to have the 6 meters there. Yeah. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Newkirk.
Yes, thank you. Just a question through you to administration. So in the in the background section, it says the purpose of the DC 120 small lot district is to provide smaller dwellings in a low density suburban setting with smaller side yards and shallow lot depth. What is the overall desire of this neighborhood? Is the smaller lots with the smaller dwellings is obviously a piece of the whole, and then I noticed that the homes are going to be even closer. We're going to lose a foot out of each lot. 1 foot out of one house, 1 foot out of house the other, and then everything is going to be that much closer. I'm not a big fan of that. Making everything closer means that everything is tighter everywhere. It's sidewalks, it's cars, it's vehicles. I've spoken on this numerous times, I guess, through the different times that stuff has been put forward. For tonight, I'll just raise the concern, leave it at that, and then probably have some more conversation at second and third reading on this.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
So are you just making a comment, or are you looking for?
It's just making a comment for tonight.
Okay.
Yep.
Fair enough. Further discussion on the motion? So, all in favor, passing first reading? And that carries unanimously. Which brings us to bylaw 935-19, Dance Meadows Phase 11, first reading. Is there a member of council willing to move first reading? Councillor Barnhart.
Moved, Your Worship.
Okay. This is the second application that are going forward to council for first reading tonight. The department received an application to redistrict a portion in the same area, general area of the Dancero Meadows neighborhood. The subject area is currently undeveloped and is located south of Township 510, east of Range Road 243, as attached number 2 in your package. In order for the development of the subject lands to proceed, the land use bylaw requires an amendment from AG Agricultural Reserve District to Direct Control 118 Dancero Meadows Zero Lot Lines District. DC 118 Dancero Meadows Zero Lot Line District was approved on June 12, 2018, which enables single detached housing with front attached or rear detached garage with reduced site width by allowing one side yard setback to be reduced to 0. This application is to apply this existing DC 118 Dancero Meadows Zero Lot Line District on the land shown on attachment 3. As a result, only Schedule A1 of the Section 8.38 of the land use bylaw is amended to include this area into DC 118 Dancero Meadows Zero Lot Line districts. The new land use bylaw will not be adopted later on in 2019, and therefore a direct control district is to ensure the applicant has the approval in place to enable developments to occur while administration completes the new land use bylaw. The application was circulated to affected external agencies and boards, internal civic departments, as well as adjacent landowners for comment. No outstanding concerns regarding this application was received. Based on this, the administration recommends support to this application and therefore give first reading to bylaw 935-19. Once a public hearing date is set, a public hearing notice will be sent and advertisement will be posted as required by the Municipal Government Act. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there a member of council willing? Oh, we already moved it. Sorry, we're ahead. Discussion on the motion. All right, seeing none. All in favor of first reading? Yes, yeah, you were here when that one started. So. Yeah, you were sitting here when it started, so you can vote. And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that brings us to bylaw 938-19, Municipal Development Plan, our complete community, first reading. Wow, you're staying, eh?
My day.
Greetings, Council. Before you tonight is Bylaw 938-19, Our Complete Community, Beaumont's new municipal development plan. Very happy to bring this back to Council for first reading after a slight hiatus. So municipal development plan is our statutory planning document that sets out the vision for how we're going to grow and develop in the future. It's an important planning tool for municipal council and the development authority, subdivision authority, and all stakeholders to guide that future development. So we are required to have a municipal development plan. We have a interim municipal development plan right now that is an update to our 1998 version, but it's missing a lot of best practices and updated policies in the way that I guess development works now to guide us in getting the development that we want and that we need. So we began this process in early 2016, and we went through about a year and a half of public engagement on it. Had about 4 or 5 different workshops where we went through the policies from A to Z. The community was involved in developing the land use concept, helping us create the vision. And what you see before you is really a result of that community engagement. It's a community-built plan, 7 different theme areas rising out of what the community said that they wanted in a plan, and as we grew. So right now, we've been working with our neighbors to address their concerns that they identified to us since, well, I guess in June of 2017, when this had gone previously to the Edmonton Metropolitan Region for approval through the Regional Evaluation Framework process. It soon became apparent that we had some further issues that we needed to work out with our municipal neighbors, and we've spent the past year working with those neighbors to resolve their concerns. And we think we've entered into a really good spot right now with them. There's been a lot of conversation back and forth, both at the political level as well as at the administrative level. And we have a really good working relationship with Leduc County and the City of Edmonton, which I think is a result of that work. And so we've been able to, I guess, make some tweaks to the plan to address a future growth area in the north annexation area, north of Township 510 for our 9 quarter sections as we work through this process called the Intermunicipal Planning Framework Agreement process with our neighbors that essentially says that we're not going to be putting forward an area structure plan until such time as that process is further along as we work through joint planning processes. So that's really the biggest change that we've made to that plan. We have addressed the council's new strategic plan from 2017 to 2021. We have updated the plan to ensure that we're in conformance with the Modernized Municipal Government Act, as well as updating it with some population statistics. The reason that this plan is coming back with a new bylaw number is because we no longer have quorum to pass that old bylaw. So this bylaw will, I guess, in effect, introduce this new municipal development plan. It's going to rescind our existing municipal development plan and also any readings to the previous bylaw for our complete community. So that is what we have in front of you today. After today, I'll let Mr. Wong speak to the next steps in this process as to what's going to happen after hopefully we get first reading tonight and what will happen next. So.
Okay. The next step, following the approval of the first reading of this bylaw 938-19, the plan will be circulated to Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board through the REF process, the Regional Evaluation Framework process, and have them approve the plan, and then coming back to council for a public hearing, second and third reading. So we'll have a new municipal development plan. So. And in between the first and the second reading and the public hearing, we are going to go out to the public again to inform the public of the update to the plan, so they are kept in the loop.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation tonight. And on behalf of council, I'd like to thank you for spending the hour and a half with us yesterday as we went through this plan in detail. It was a great discussion, and I'm confident that it's a really great document. Is there a member of council willing to move first reading this evening? Councillor Stout.
So moved, Your Worship.
Discussion on the motion. Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship to Mr. Wong and Ms. Raymond. Yesterday, as you've alluded to, you didn't mention yesterday, but it was yesterday. We went through this in some detail, and I'm very confident it's a thorough and robust document. But there were some modifications and changes, mostly minor stuff that Council asked for, which presumably isn't reflected in the agenda package because this came out before we had that meeting. So I guess my question is, when this is presented to the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board or in a public hearing, that's not going to be the same document that we've got here, it will be modified?
Probably to answer that question is if it is more of the administrative nature, for example, if the changes the purpose of the changes, they are to make the policy statement more clear to the public and to give clear directions to the administration, then I believe that would be okay. Because of the Municipal Government Act is saying if there are administrative changes, you don't have to go through the amendment process to do so. But if the nature of the change is substantive, then it will be a different story. But according to what the discussion we had last night, I don't believe those are substantive changes.
Through Your Worship to Councillor Stout, just to follow up here on Mr. Wong's comments, the changes that were identified last night were mostly some minor changes in regards to adding maybe a few different agencies that we work with or clarifying some typographical errors and that sort of thing that need to be done. We are able to do that without needing to bring forward an amendment or anything else. So we were planning on sending out the document as it's presented right now, because we will present the updated draft before we come to the public hearing and before second reading happens. So this is the document that Council's given first reading to, and we didn't want to make changes that Council hadn't agreed to before we've sent that on.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I was on the right page and that we were figuratively as well as literally. Thank you.
Councillor Barnard.
Thank you, Your Worship. Following up on what you said about it going to the Edmonton Metropolitan Regional Board, if that were then to necessitate some further changes, we would have to go back to first reading again if they were substantive or if it wasn't accepted there?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Barnhart, no, we don't need to go back to first reading. Prior to holding that public hearing and having second reading being given on the bylaw, that is when we would come forward with our administrative report identifying what changes were made. You would vote to include those, and then we would be able to still make additions to that bylaw.
Thank you.
All right, I think I've managed to confuse myself. So just so we're clear, the stuff that we captured last night and anything captured by the EMRB would get presented at second reading. Fair enough. Okay. Clear like mud. Any further questions? No? All right. So all in favor of first reading? And that carries unanimously. Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so that includes bylaws. So we're now that Councillor Moncalswain has joined us, we're going to go back up to item 8A. Notice of motion policy FIN 16-02 elected officials remuneration. Just as a quick heads up on that, I think we've discussed this, but we're about to crack that one at the committee of the whole coming next week and put it for approval of the council meeting afterwards. So I don't know if that adjusts what you want to do. Ms. Winter?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to members of council and the public. Meeting Procedures Bylaw 923-18 states that once a notice of motion is made, it will be placed on the next regular council meeting agenda by the elected official who made the notice of motion. At the December 11th, 2018 council meeting, Councillor Moncalswain made the following notice of motion that council direct administration to review and update policy, financial policy 16-02, section 7A, mandatory review of policy, to ensure that mandatory review is completed 1 year prior to an election year and thereafter. On December 13th, 2016, regular council meeting, council approved policy FIN-16-02, council remuneration to take effect for October 17th, 2017. At this time, administration is seeking direction from council. Thank you.
Councillor Moncalswain?
Thank you, and I think this can be very brief. I just want clarification that, to use the mayor's term, crack that nut. We're going to be bringing that up, so that discussion is committee of the whole, and that is we can go through any part of the document. It's not just speaking about the remuneration.
Up through you to Councillor Monkoff-Swain. The entire document is coming forward to the committee of the whole meeting. Therefore, it's opening up the entire document for review and changes.
So then I'll look for direction on you on which of these options makes sense here. So I'm happy to refer it to committee of the whole. Well, you let me know. We don't need to have that discussion today. I'm comfortable to have that during the committee of the whole.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Monkoff-Swain. It's really up to you on whether or not you want your council to vote on whether or not you want that to be, or if you feel comfortable to pull your notice of motion off the table and then just discuss it with your council in hopes that they'll support you on the January 15th committee of the whole meeting.
So I asked for direction and you threw it back at me, and that's fair. So I'll go with, I'll move option 3 makes sense. That council not request further action on this notice of motion.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Can I withdraw
it?
Through you to Councillor Monkoff-Swain. I would say option 3 would be a good choice for this matter. And also, should something happen in the future and you didn't have support from your council on the committee of the whole meeting, you can bring forward another notice of motion.
Thank you. And to be fair, if I didn't get support from this in the committee of the whole, I doubt I'd get support on another meeting, so I probably wouldn't bring it up again, but unless I was really nice. So I think some of the commentary next to me here, can I just withdraw, or do we need a vote on number 3?
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Monkoff-Swain, you can withdraw.
Okay. I will withdraw it. And apologies for the confusion.
That's all right. Okay, so
thank you,
Councilor McLean, withdrawn his notice of motion. Which brings us down to item number 10, Councilor inquiries and reports. Are there any questions of admin from council? Councilor Stout.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, just wanted to direct a question to admin regarding I understand that we are working on a community standards bylaw. Sorry, I had to think of the word for I only just discovered this recently, which will deal with some aspects of parking of vehicles, recreational vehicles in particular. Would you be able to appraise us as to what the progress on that is?
CEO? Yes, certainly. Through your worship to Councillor Stout. We are looking at developing a community standards bylaw. A lot of other communities have one. We do not. So it would be a new bylaw. And in it would include things like, I know we dealt with the RV parking issue last summer and probably previous summers. And we're looking at making changes to make them in the typical RV bylaw as it pertains to the Highway Traffic Act has some restrictions on what you can implement and what you cannot as far as bans and moving your vehicles, whereas the community standards bylaw gives us a lot more flexibility. So we're currently in the process of developing that. The plan is to bring that to council after the 2 other bylaws that are pretty important as well, and that one is the smoking bylaw and the other is the animal control bylaw. Our schedule for the smoking bylaws is coming in the first part of February to be adopted hopefully the first part of March. Animal control bylaw is scheduled to be in front of council in March with eventual approval in April. And then our plan was to bring the community standards bylaw in front of council in May to have it completed either by the end of May or the first part of June and be ready for the summer months. We've got more resources as was approved in the budget, and we're adding a peace officer who will be more focused on bylaw enforcement, the boots on the ground, if you will. Part of the difficulty in enforcing some of our bylaws, especially when we're on the RV, and we saw that last year, is having available resources. So it becomes a complaint-driven process. We hope to be much more proactive. We will have 3 different resources that we can use. 2 will be mainly focused on traffic enforcement, but one will be directly focused on bylaw. So long story short, our schedule at this point is to have the community standards bylaw in front of council in May.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In view of that, I will not make the motion that I was going to make in the next section.
Fair enough.
Because I think it would be redundant and simply distracts from the work that would be necessary in order to complete the schedule that CAO Schwartz has just described.
Fair enough. Are there any further questions for administration from members of council? Is there any councillor wishing to make a statement tonight or a report? No? All right, brings us to item number 11, CAO update.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, members of council, members of City Council. Welcome. A couple of quick things. I had the pleasure of attending the Edmonton Economic Development Corporation's 2009 Impact Luncheon today. Probably, 1,500, 2,000 people in that room. Some pretty big hitters. A lot of people a lot smarter than me. And it was very interesting. This metropolitan region, we're number 3 in the world on artificial intelligence. That's amazing. That's something I didn't know. And that the work that's going on in the region, and they talked a lot about recovering from the energy crisis, or, the downturn in the energy sector, and how people are stepping up. One of the gentlemen talked about well, and I've heard this before, the Alberta advantage being the fact that we are risk takers and we're innovative and we're collaborative. And it was pretty impressive to be in that room and listen to some of the stuff that's going on and coming down the pipe for 2019. So hang on. The MDP work by Kendra and by Johannes and the rest of the staff is no less than outstanding. It's been going on for about 18 months since we had that ripple at the Capital Region Board, where we presented, in my opinion, one of the best MDPs, technical MDPs that this province has seen, and for other reasons it didn't get passed. We've been working extensively on collaborating with our regional partners, but that's not easy, and that can get right nasty. The issue was from the beginning servicing of those Northlands, and there up until I'm going to say 8 weeks ago, we weren't there on getting some language in place that avoided us getting tied into a special study area, because by calling it that, you've got that definition has a whole bunch of hoops that you have to jump through and jump back through to get out of, and that could have tied us up. And I'm going to give Kendra and Johannes direct credit for grinding it out in these regional meetings and coming to language in this MDP that gives us a lot of freedom, commits us to collaborating, but doesn't tie our hands. So I don't want us to underestimate that work. It's still a fabulous document. And council, the feedback we got last night was really good, and it's even gotten better. So, snow removal began today in residential cul-de-sacs. I tossed that out there because that's a change in service level that this council put in last year. We didn't have to use it because of we're nearing the end of the snowfall season, but we've gotten to the point now where we're able to get into those P4 areas, so it's priority 4 areas. Crews have been doing a wonderful job. I also toss this out there to ask the members of the general public to please respect the signs that we put out and to move your vehicle. Moving your vehicle off the street benefits your neighbors and it benefits the general taxpayer. When we need to go in there with even one vehicle on a street and go around that, and while some think we have some joy in tunneling in a vehicle, there isn't any at all. well, maybe there's a little bit by the operator, but that's not, so I shouldn't say that. But it really kills our efficiency and effectiveness, and it takes longer to move that snow. It causes more melting issues when things do warm up, and it affects the whole neighborhood. The part about it being inefficient affects the general population because it costs us more money to get in there. And guess what? We don't have any money. Our money is your money. We put those signs out. We strive to give you 48 hours notice. So we ask that people move their vehicle. We do make an effort to contact vehicle owners that are parked on the street and didn't follow the signs. But as a last resort, we will issue a summons. And we'll tell council that we have issued 6 tickets this year so far. But we don't want to do that. It doesn't help anybody. We just want those vehicles moved off the street. So I ask you to pay attention to those signs. It makes a big difference. The last thing is more of a comical thing and something the mayor and I were talking about before. The MCC caucus is coming up on January 30th and 31. It's comical, but it's also getting a little bit on a soapbox. This year it's at the town of Cochrane. This past December or October, we hosted the Mayor's Caucus and we upped the game. We had help from our business and our economic development folks. We had help from our legislative services, and we put on a pretty good show. And we showcased local and regional talent, be it cuisine to wares to doing tours. It knocked it out of the park. Well, the town of Cochrane is trying to up us, and I think that's fabulous because what they've done is designed what they're calling a soiree. They sent out invitations to those for the evening to showcase local wares and local talent. And I just think that's outstanding. That's exactly what they should do. So they absolutely have our support, but I find it actually a little credit to the job that you've put on there, Mayor Stewart. That's all I had. Thank you. It took way longer than I thought.
Thank you very much. All right, so there is no correspondence and there are now no notice motions. So can I get a motion to move in camera to commence the closed session? Councillor Van Newkirk.
So moved.
All in favor? That carries.